Thank you very much, Mr Weston, and it's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. And can I welcome the Minister to his place and congratulate the Honourable Member for Leeds Central and Headingley on securing this debate. It was the English Army officer and playwright Guy de Maurier, excuse the pronunciation on that, who wrote "Every Englishman's home is his castle." And in that phrase, he summed up the immense feelings of pride and belonging that people should feel about their homes, whether homeowners or renters. It should always be the case that everyone in this country, every child, every parent, every pensioner, can live in a home that is warm, dry and safe. And I know that all colleagues in this House will agree that this should be the bare minimum. And as I mentioned, I'd like to congratulate the Honourable Member for Leeds Central and Headingley in calling for this debate. His timing, as usual, is perfect, and it's almost as good as his timing in arriving at this debate with 30 seconds to spare. And maybe he should think about going into a marathon with sprinting like that this Sunday. Good luck to him, and I hope that Mr Weston, that the Honourable Member sends his sponsorship details around to every member in the House, and good luck to him on that. He outlined a very important case, because we all as MPs, whatever party we represent and whatever constituency we represent, will have recently received the bog standard response from a housing association or a council saying that residents who have damp and mould have had their mould wash put in and they need to keep their windows open and they need to stop using the tumble dryer indoors. That's not good enough. And we, as all members in this House, need to push harder on that sector, and we need to push harder in raising the concerns of many of our constituencies and our constituents who have those problems. And we must all do better, and there is much more to do. And in that spirit, can I just refer to the speech made by the Honourable Lady, the member for Bath, who made a fantastic speech, setting out the clear conflict in the social sector between building more homes and making sure that they can invest to keep standards up in their stock. Now, I wouldn't go as far as to say that I agree with her that it's impossible, but it's certainly made a lot harder. And they are some of the concerns that have been raised to me as Shadow Housing Minister by the sector. In fact, myself, I used to work for the largest housing association in the United Kingdom, and we did consistently have a line back to the previous government that if we wanted to be ambitious, we absolutely wanted to commit to make sure that we had decent homes. But if the targets were there in building homes, private, essentially not-for-profit companies, but relying on the old profit model, do get stuck in trying to deliver those, and we need to do better at making sure that that sector is supported. The chair of the Select Committee, who I'm a great fan of, said that there is still a taboo around social housing. She is absolutely correct, and she's right. And as somebody who grew up on a council estate in New Cross, and Bermondsey and then Lewisham, I'm proud to be somebody that grew up on a council estate. My parents still live in their council house. And we should be, on both sides of the House, in all parties, express our support for people who live in council housing. It is a great step up to many people. It is a security blanket for many people. And I am the first to admit that the last government simply did not go far enough in supporting that housing and social housing sector. And that is something that I am determined to change, because I was created and grew up in that sector myself. Now, every home should be a place of pride, of safety and of stability, and that sense of pride is shattered when people who are handed keys to a house with shoddy workmanship, incomplete fittings or insufficient insulation when we're talking about new homes, or those who are not being looked after properly by poor repairs and maintenance regimes of housing associations or private landlords need to be supported more. And on new builds, the last government did important work to make new homes fit for the future, including improving insulation standards. But where insulation is still lacking, we need urgent action, and I welcome the new responsibilities given to Ofgem to oversee repairs and remediation in this area. And of course, this debate is not just about building new homes to a suitable standard. It's also vital to legislate for the proper and safe maintenance of the existing and ageing stock. So I am pleased that under the last government we passed the Social Housing Regulation Act 2024, a landmark piece of legislation that strengthens the powers of the regulator of social housing. This act introduced AWAB's law, setting strict time limits for social landlords to deal with hazards like damp and mould. And the tragic death of 2-year-old Awab Ishak, whose MP I used to share an office with before he left this place, and I saw the tragic case being borne out in real time, caused by prolonged exposure to mould in his home, is a heartbreaking reminder of what can go wrong when we fail to act. And it should never have happened, and I firmly believe all efforts to ensure that such a tragedy never happens again. And there must be nowhere for rogue landlords to hide, either private landlords or social landlords. And I will continue to work with this Minister and this Government to build on the progress already made in holding them to account, of course, but working together generally to build on some of the progress that we have made together in protecting tenants from dangerous living conditions. Of course I will.
I thank the Shadow Minister for his really open and honest speech on this issue, and I know that this is an area that he cares passionately about. And does he agree with me then that one of the areas where the previous government may have helped this really important area was around the issue of no-fault evictions? Because again, we saw so many tenants who were in properties where there was frankly too much damp and mould, but yet because of that fear of being evicted, they didn't say anything, and then lo and behold, they'll find themselves being evicted through no fault of their own.
So I thank the Honourable Lady for her intervention, and I think she is correct to say that there are areas where we could have gone further. But I also think some of that was could have been met by some of the actions that we brought forward in terms of a new housing ombudsman and making sure that regulation was better. I don't think we worked at pace to do that as fast as we could, and that's something that we need to learn from. And that's something that we, as I said, openly to the Minister in his position now, who I congratulate for being in the position. There's no one in this House who knows more about the housing sector and has prepared a manifesto than him. We may disagree vehemently at times about it, but I can't knock him for his talent and his expertise. But that's where we will offer to work with the government on making sure that we can make those great strides. And as I've said, let me be clear, it is utterly unacceptable that in 21st century Britain, any family is put in danger simply because of where they live. Everyone, regardless of background, income or postcode, deserves to live in a home that is a decent, secure and safe home. The last government's consultation on our AWAB's law proposed sensible timelines. Landlords must investigate hazards within 14 days, act within a further 7 and complete emergency repairs within 24 hours. I welcome this government's commitment to implementing the law from October, and that implementation must be timely, thorough and enforced, and they will have our support in doing so. And it is important to highlight that providers across the sector are continuing to invest in their existing stock to drive up standards, and it was the previous government which oversaw the halving of the number of decent homes in the social housing sector since 2010. But the cost associated with these new requirements will likely require a rise in rents and service charges, which present their own associated challenges to an overburdened sector. As L&Q, not the one I work for, by the way, the rivals, as L&Q Group noted, providers across the sector invested £37 billion in bringing homes up to a decent standard at an average cost of £10,000 per home. But without additional government support, this pace will slow and add more pressure on renters going forward. And it will, as the Honourable Lady for Bath outlined, slow house building in this sector for the people that most need it, but also will harm the government's 1.5 million housing target going forward. And on that topic, I must turn to the issue, as the Honourable Gentleman for Leeds did, on the issue of the winter fuel support. Now, the Minister knows our view on that, and I'm not going to rehash those views on the winter fuel support. But it is a lifeline for many, especially our pensioners. And I know I speak for many colleagues across the House when I say that I am deeply concerned by this government's decision to scrap the winter fuel allowance, impacting 10 million pensioners nationwide. But now, Age UK research shows that in the North West alone, 1.2 million pensioners are losing support, and 300,000 of them are already living in or close to poverty. And that is just not a policy failure, it is a moral failure, one that we all must bear, and our pensioners have worked in, contributed to and built this country. We cannot and must not leave them out in the cold. And I do say to the Minister that energy bills are still going up, and the double whammy of the winter fuel payment with some of the inefficiency in houses, particularly where it comes to pensioners, and some of the promises made by the government to freeze energy bills have not been met, and energy bills are going up, not only harming those who are vulnerable, but stopping them from heating their homes where they need to. So I hope the Minister takes the criticisms, the suggestions and the support in the spirit in which I intend them, and this opposition intend them. But the government has a lot to reconsider. They need to reconsider a settlement for pensioners which exacerbate their strained living conditions, a housing algorithm which abdicates responsibility for the issue to overburdened local authorities, and a faltering ambition to build a record number of homes. We all want to see more houses built, I've repeatedly said that, and for those houses to be of high quality. But we also want to have a decent standard of homes across the private rented sector too. There's much more work to be done. The government must rethink its approach on benefits for pensioners and vulnerable people while it still has a chance to correct its course, or it will be the general public who will suffer the consequences of the government's mismanagement. I stand ready to offer support to the Minister in a genuine and open and constructive way, and I look forward to his responses this afternoon. Thank you very much.